Hello scholars, today's video looks a little bit different. That's because I'm here at my home and we're doing an online activity today, so it's going to be very, very different today. The first thing we always do is start with our welcome song. This video is for elementary and for middle academy, so we'll just start by singing both songs. We'll start with middle academy. Here we go. Singing all together, singing with delight, scholars here together, future's looking bright. Everybody singing a song, everybody singing a song. Everybody sing all day long, everybody sing all day long. Now we'll sing the welcome song for elementary academy. Here we go. It's time for music class. It's time for music class. We're gonna sing, la la la, we're gonna play. We're gonna move and groove and have some fun today. It's time for music class. It's time for music class. Thank you. After that, we always sing our star song, so repeat after me. We are singing, tracking the talker, crisscross applesauce, hands in our lap, voices up. Thank you. Here's what we're doing in our video today. It says middle and elementary academy scholars will be able to move to music, then discover our secret word of the day, discover the life and music of a famous composer, and discover some of the elements of music. So that's our goal for today. The first thing on that list is move to music. We're going to do that by doing our Down, Down, Baby. So everybody stand up. I'm going to do the same. We'll just do it once through because we have quite a bit to get through today. We're going to do it at an allegro tempo. So allegro is kind of like a skipping speed. Not really fast, but not really slow. And kind of not really in the middle either. Kind of like a brisk pace is what we say in music class. Here we go. Tap, 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 tap. Here we go. Down, down, baby, down by the roller coaster. Sweet, sweet baby, I don't want to let you go. Shimmy, shimmy, cocoa pop, shimmy, shimmy round. Shimmy, shimmy, cocoa pop, shimmy, shimmy break down. Two big kids sitting on a fence, trying to make $1 out of 65 cents. She missed, she missed, she missed like this. She missed, she missed, she missed like this. There we go. I'm going to sit back on my chair again. All right. Hopefully, we're starting to get that ingrained in us a little bit. Okay. I'm going to go back to my screen. And we're going to start with our secret word of the day. I have 3 notes here on the screen. We have to figure out what letters fill in those blanks at the bottom by identifying each pitch name. So let's look at the first one with my pointer that was on my face before I noticed. Is that one on a line or in a space? That one's on a line. I know that it's on a line because the line goes right through the head of the note. The head is that circle part of the note. All right, so then I always say if it's on a line, a sentence is fine. If it's on a line, a sentence is fine. And the sentence that I like to use is every good burger deserves fries. That makes me think of the burger and fries that Mr. Isles made us for dinner last night. It was wonderful. All right, every good burger deserves fries. So I'm going to start at the bottom. I always start at the bottom when I'm figuring this out. Every good burger deserves fries. What word did I say when I hit the head of the note? For that one, I said burger. What letter does burger start with? B. The first letter is B. That's a B on our staff. And remember, a staff is those 5 lines, 4 spaces. And that little swirly thing at the beginning, that's a treble clef. That tells us we're doing something in a high sound. Okay, next one. Is it on a line or in a space? On a line or in a space? That one's in a space. I can tell it's in a space because the head is squeezed in between the two lines. That one's in a space. And I always say, if it's in a space, you use your face. If it's in a space, you use your face. So I start at the bottom, just like before, and I spell the word face going up. F, A, C, E. What letter did I say when I hit the head of the note? E. So our second letter is E. And last one, is it on a line or in a space? It's on a line. And if it's on a line, a sentence is fine. If it's on a line, a sentence is fine. Start at the bottom. Every good burger deserves fries. What word did I say when I hit the head of the note? Good. Good. And good starts with the letter G, so we call that G. My cat Zisu's about to make an appearance. G. So our secret word of the day is B-E-G, which spells the word beg. Our secret word of the day is beg. Okay, I'm going to get my kitten out of here. Hey, Zisu. He's famous now. Okay, Zisu, go play. All right. Now we're going to talk about the life and music of a famous composer. My face might move around from side to side as I'm going through this. So the reason that we're doing this with both middle and elementary academy is that we both learn about Beethoven, but then we kind of diverge, meaning go into two different directions with it. So elementary academy, you're going to be doing something different with this in our next video, and middle academy, you'll be doing something a little bit different with this. But we both academies learn a little bit about Beethoven. So I wrote some things that are important to know about Beethoven. First, his name was Ludwig von Beethoven, which I think is a really cool sounding name. And I'm just going to read through some of my bullet points. I might talk a little bit more further than what I wrote. But these are just some important things for us to know. Just a quick little biography of Beethoven. Beethoven was known as one of the greatest composers in history. I use that word composers very specifically. A composer that's a fancy word for someone who writes music. We don't use that word a lot in popular music these days. You might hear the song like songwriter would be more appropriate, or maybe we'd say singer. But not all singers in pop music, especially some of them don't write their own music. So a composer is someone who writes music using like the secret word of the day stuff, the pitches on the staff, and using rhythms and things. He was born December 17th, 1770, so that's a really long time ago. And maybe you could do some quick math and figure out, ooh, how old is that? How long ago was that guy living? Long time ago, years and years and years ago. He was born in Bonn, Germany, so in Europe. He wasn't an American person. As far as I know, he never visited America. He spent all of his life in Europe. Actually, he lived most of his life in Austria, and in Vienna, Austria, which is its capital city. His father was a music teacher. His father could play a lot of different instruments. He played violin, viola, piano, a lot of different instruments. So he wanted Beethoven to become a musician as well, so he taught him by the time he was very young. He started playing music when he was super little, younger than all of you, I'm sure. He had his first piano performance, so he played for other people when he was 8 years old. So that would put him at around maybe like second or third grade. So a performance is when you get in front of people and you kind of put on a concert. So the first time he ever did that on piano, he was 8 years old. And his first composition was published when he was 12 years old. So that would maybe be about like sixth grade or so. A composition is a fancy word that means the music that you write. So like an author would write a book, a composer would write a composition. Published means it was put out for other people to buy. So by the time he was like a sixth grader, he was a published composer, which is pretty impressive, even by today's standards. He was studying school at age 19 when his mother passed away, and his dad was very, very sick. So he went to live with his brother because he had really no one to care for him. He was only 19 years old when that happened. So he moved in with his family, who helped kind of support him. I'm going to move my face a little bit. While he was studying music, he studied with Franz Joseph Haydn, who's this guy at the top, who always, I think, looks like a president, and Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Some of you may have heard of Mozart before. He's probably arguably the most famous composer that's ever lived. But those were two guys that he studied with. He performed his first symphony at age 30. A symphony, that's another fancy word. We're really learning a lot of fancy words today. A symphony is like a really big, impressive song. Usually has a bunch of movements, like little pieces of a song make up a whole symphony. And a symphony is usually written for an orchestra. When he was age 30, I'm 34, so he was younger than I was when he wrote his first symphony. So he had to write music for the violins, and then he wrote music for the clarinets, and then he'd write music for the flutes, and then he'd write music for the upright basses. He had to write music for all the different parts of the orchestra and make it all fit together and make it sound good, which is pretty impressive by age 30. Beethoven was an interesting guy. Another thing, this is one of my favorite facts about Beethoven. He started losing his hearing at age 28. I'm 34. He was 6 years younger than me, and then he started to lose his hearing. In the picture below, or really off to the side, you can see a device used to help Beethoven hear. So he lived in the 1790s, around then, when he started to lose his hearing. And back then they didn't have hearing aids, like maybe some of you have grown-ups in your life that are elderly or that are just deaf or hard of hearing and they wear hearing aids. They didn't have that back then. They didn't have the technology. So they had this long thing that looks like a bell that would trap the sound and kind of funnel it into your ear and amplify it. And that's what they would use to help people hear. So he would just walk around and try to make conversations with people like that. He wanted to hide his deafness, and the only people who really knew he was deaf, especially early on, were his very, very close friends and family, of which he didn't really have a whole lot of that. Like I said, his parents got sick and his father did end up dying. So he didn't have a lot of family, and he really didn't have a lot of friends because from what's been told about Beethoven, he was really not a very nice guy. He wasn't a lot of fun to be around. He was very brilliant, but not a very nice guy. So he hid his deafness quite a bit. He moved 54 times in the last few years of his life. So in the last 3 or 4 years of his life, he moved 54 times. That's crazy. I've moved in my life like 6, 7 times or something like that. 54 times in like 3 years. That's crazy. At the end, it says he lived with his nephew, Carl, and tried to teach him music. His dad taught him how to make music. He wanted to teach his nephew, Carl, who he kind of took under his wing. But Carl just didn't really have an interest. So that kind of consumed the last few years of his life. 30,000 people attended his funeral. 30,000. That's like this, probably close to the size of Columbia Heights. A lot of people attended his funeral when he died. Most of his most famous music was written when he was already deaf, which I think is very interesting. There is an old, I don't know if you really wanted to call it a rumor, kind of a wives' tale, just kind of a thing that people say, that when Beethoven lost his hearing, he cut the legs off of his piano so that the body of his piano rested on the floor. And he would put his head against the floor and bang on the piano keys so that he could feel the vibration because he couldn't hear it as well. I don't know if that's true or not. That's just something that people say, but I think it's very interesting. It's Mrs. Isles' favorite composer. I love Beethoven. When I was in college, I played the French horn was my main instrument, and I played some different Beethoven compositions as I was learning my French horn. So it's pretty cool that we get to study him, that we get to learn about his life. And I think it's super awesome that someone who had a career in music was able to work through that, even though they had a disability. I think people with disabilities can do amazing, wonderful things, and Beethoven is a really cool example of that. He's also the reason why I'm learning sign a little bit. He kind of inspired that, which is pretty cool. And there's Beethoven. That's the most famous picture of Beethoven with that red ascot, that red scarf that he's wearing. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about the elements of music next. I'm going to move my face over here now. And the elements of music are just kind of the little pieces that make up music as a whole. So we're going to do our first musical analysis. We're going to do a few of these throughout the year, both in elementary and in middle academy. And I just wrote 5 questions that I want you to just think about as we're listening to a song today. The first question is the music fast or slow? And that's a very simple way of saying what is the tempo of the music. Both elementary and middle academy, we've talked about tempo. Largo means very slow, crawling speed. Andante is a walking speed. Allegro is a skipping speed. Presto is very fast. So you can think to yourself, this is a fast song, or this is a slow song. Or if you really want to challenge yourself to use those Italian words that we learned, that would be super cool. Is the music high or low? That's kind of talking about pitch. Knowing those different notes on a staff, I can play high sounds, I can play low sounds. It might be a combination of high and low sounds. Is the music smooth or jumpy? That makes me think of sing legato, flowing from note to note, smooth, calm. We call that legato in music. Or is it jumpy, like staccato is short and snappy? We can also call that disjunct and adjunct motion, which means does it go like a scale? Ooh. That would be conjunct motion, or is it like kuya, 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 where it jumps around? That's called disjunct. Is the music loud or soft? We haven't talked about loud and soft in music. That's called dynamics, which is another fancy word. There's different levels of dynamics, but since none of us have talked about it, we're just going to say, is it loud or do you think this music is soft? That all depends on the volume of your computer or your phone or your tablet, the device you're using. So make sure you got your sound on so you can really tell the difference between louds and softs. And then the last one, number 5, is what instruments do you hear? That's called timbre in music. We haven't talked a lot about instruments, and I don't know exactly what we've done in years past, especially for you middle schoolers who maybe done music a little bit longer than others. But you can maybe think, do you hear the sound of a piano as we listen? Do you hear the sound of a violin? Do you hear the sounds of trumpets, clarinets? Do you hear voices? Because your voice is an instrument. Do you hear kazoos? Do you hear accordions? Do you hear an instrument that maybe is unfamiliar to you? So as I play this song, it's only a couple minutes long, I just want you to look at those questions. And if you want to, and I'm going to do it too in my notebook here, just write down some thoughts. Maybe answer these 5 questions. You can take a piece of paper or a whiteboard, number it 1 through 5. And then at the end, I'll tell you what I wrote down. And you can just compare your answers with mine. So this song is called Fior Elise. Over the top of that U, there's 2 little dots. That's called an umlaut. Oops. Fior Elise, which just means for Elise. Elise is like a woman's name. So this is a song for Elise. I'm going to move my face up here. So I'm going to play Fior Elise, and I want you to analyze what you hear. Is the music fast or slow? Is it high or low? Is it smooth or jumpy? You might have other words that come to your mind. It might make you think of playing outside in the snow, since snow happened this past week. It might make you think of Halloween. It might make you think of dinosaurs. I don't know. If you want to just jot those thoughts down too, that's another part of musical analysis. That's your own personal impact. So here we go. We're going to listen to Fior Elise, make sure my volume's up, and then we're going to analyze it. Here we go. There we go. Okay, let's go over our answers. I'm going to tell you what I think. Yours might match mine, might be a little bit different. It all kind of depends on what kind of music you listen to. Because really, when you analyze music, you kind of have to compare it to what's normal for you, what's typical for you. So your answers are a little bit different than mine. That's okay. Number 1, is the music fast or slow? I wrote allegro, brisk. When I figure that out, I just see here, I tap the beat. And I always compare it to how fast I walk. I don't walk very fast usually, so I thought it's faster than what I walk. So the next step up from walking speed on Dante, that would be allegro. So I said it was allegro. Is the music high or low? I wrote in the melody, that was a high sound, but there are some low parts. And that's because of the instrument used. You can play more than one note at the same time. But the melody, the part that came to my ear, was high, but there were some low sounds. I wrote for number 3, is it smooth or jumpy? I wrote that it was pretty jumpy, especially in the melody. The melody is that main tune that was playing. Is the music loud or soft? I said it was soft-ish. When I think of loud music, I think of like electric guitar and trumpets blaring in your ear. I don't think of this sound really. So it's not super quiet, but I think it's on the softer side of what music can be. And then what instruments do you hear? I wrote only one instrument, and that was piano. There's piano. That's probably the instrument that most people think of when they think about music. It's used in popular music all the time. And in piano, you play with your right hand the melody, maybe the part that you would sing or the main tune. And then with your left hand, you can hit lower notes. So that's why before we said it was both high and low sounds. All right, that's all the questions. There's a lot more stuff that you can analyze as you do music, but those were the first 5 that we talked about. So first was tempo, fast or slow. Pitch, smooth or jumpy, that's called articulation. Dynamics and timbre. If you are in middle academy, we're really going to hit those hard in our next video when we do another song by Beethoven. And in elementary school, we're also going to be using those same ideas. All right, so we've gotten to the end of our video. I'm going to make myself a little bit bigger. We only have one thing left to do with our video, and that's to do our train exit. So breathe with me, elementary and middle academies. Here we go. Thanks for making and listening to music with me. We'll see you next time. Have a magical musical day.